has delighted lovers of comedy across the world for generations. Whether he's walking or talking, John Cleese is one of the world's favourite funny men when it comes to silly slapstick and irreverent wit. From Monty Python's madness in the 1970s...
I think it's a joke, sir. Like Sillius Sodus or Biggest Digger, sir.
to the brief but unforgettable Fawlty Towers.
Can't, I've got too much to do. Listen, don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it all right.
From the fun of A Fish Called Wonder.
Созвучий слав звук, идущих непонятная святая прелистовая.
To Q in James Bond, Die Another Day. And Nearly Headless Nick in Harry Potter.
Welcome to Gryffindor.
Still on tour at the age of 82, he will visit Bangkok on January 11th, 2022 for his one-night show, Why There Is No Hope.
What is the poor man doing performing when he should be at home lying down resting? Well, I'll tell you why I'm here, my friends. I'm here, frankly, because I need the money.
We were lucky enough to meet him in advance via Zoom.
You hear me all right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, good.
Is there
The lady down there called Rain. What are you doing here, Rain?
I'm part of the team, but I'm in Bangkok, and our other colleagues there in Pattaya.
Ah, good. But you're not going to sing?
Oh, no. Well, I can sing if you like, but I might clear the room.
Sing.
I wish you a Merry Christmas.
Oh, yes, I don't know that one.
Oh, good. I'm so happy that you're coming to Bangkok. I tell you, after 2 years of lockdowns and curfews and no alcohol, we could all do with a good laugh here, that's for sure.
I'm looking forward to it because I think you have the best hotels in the world.
Yes.
I adore Thai food. And my wife used to have a jewellery business, and she used to have all her jewellery made in Thailand.
Yeah, it's one of the top places in the world for that. That's
coming back, because she used to come here as part of her business.
Yeah. I think the audiences in Asia, and particularly Thailand, love to have you here, because you've been here some years ago, I recall. But it's been a while, I think, before the last visit.
Well, I don't remember. You see, I play so many places, and if I'm on a tour, I go from one to the next before I ever have time to see where I am.
Yes.
But I tour a lot in America and Canada and Australia. I don't tour in the UK because the press is so unpleasant that they make everything unpleasant. But in the places that I do tour a lot, which is America, for example, I sometimes realize that I played a town and I've forgotten all about it because all I saw was the hotel and the theatre and the airport.
Yeah, it's all a blur. I mean, it's
who are these people? There's a guy here called Max.
Hi there.
Is he the one who looks like Eric Morecambe?
Oh, no, that's me. You must be referring to me. I especially put on my Eric Morecambe's today for this occasion. No, I'm David. That's Max.
Max, tell me, who's got the K? Are you K Thompson or is it Max K? There's a K floating around here.
Yeah, so Maxwell Kimberly Thompson. When I was younger, my mum and dad put their surnames together and created this brand new name to the world that no one else has got.
You're Max Kimberly, so who is the aged Eric Morecambe impersonator?
David Morecambe Smith. My mum and dad did the same thing, although my dad's name wasn't Morecambe, funnily enough. Not very wise.
What? Dad's name was what?
Wasn't Morecambe. To be honest, I don't remember my dad's name.
Oh, that's a bit sad. Yeah, so...
Well, I think you're not that old, are you?
Just about to turn 53 in a couple of weeks.
You wait till you're 82, then your memory will be completely gone. I have my own name tattooed on the inside of my wrist, so that when I say, hello, who are you, I can just have a quick...
I shall be very happy if I make it to 82, to be honest.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, and what I find so wonderful is that the other day I was talking to both my sons who are like early 20s, and they've just discovered Monty Python. They asked me, said, "Mum, have you ever seen this Monty Python stuff? It's so funny." And I said, "Wow, isn't it great that even now with kids now, it's what you did and all the humour that you're involved in is still so relevant and still so funny."
It's hard to figure out what it is that was so different, but I think the word that sums it up is silly. Most comedy now, it's perfectly sensible, it's funny. The Americans on television now are producing very, very good comedy, but very little of it is silly. Very little is people slapping each other's faces with fish or opening a cheese shop that doesn't have any cheese at all in it. You don't get that kind of humor. And people, when I go to America in particular, people who are unfortunate enough to grow up in the Midwest, where of course nothing happens, nobody has passports, nobody's been anywhere, and suddenly they saw this thing was so different from anything else they'd ever seen in their life, and it lit a little fire in them. You see what I mean? They suddenly found, oh, I love this. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
A lot of people have helped me for Python in particular, just saying thank you for not just making me laugh, but thank you for forming my sense of humor. Because they hadn't seen that kind of stuff. You didn't know it existed. And when they saw it, they loved it. And
the silliness, though, a lot of the times these silly things we can't do anymore. I mean, it's become so PC. There's such an absurd culture in a lot of the world today. I mean, does that give you good fodder for your comedy, or does it just frustrate the hell out of you?
I sometimes tweet things that I think are funny, but I'm doing a television program about the woke phenomenon. But it's huge, and it seems to me to come from a sort of overprotectiveness. Parents need to protect their children, but we all know if they're overprotected, it's not good for the children. They grow up more easily upset, and if they have setbacks, they find it takes longer to recover from. In fact, the cognitive behavioral therapists, who are a very smart, competent professional group, they work with young people to reduce their anxiety. And they say that what they do is the complete opposite of what the woke people are advocating. And a lot of it is about sex. And in the old days, well, there was a lot of prejudice. There's always prejudice. It's a very, very unsatisfactory planet. And all we can do is to try and work to make it a little bit better. I'm all in favor of that. I don't think there was any time in history where people were being really kind to anyone. Everyone else. People go on about imperialism and what the British Empire, what a terrible thing it was. So yes, but the empire was the form of political organization for about the first 6,000 years of human history. That was what it was. There weren't democracies. You see what I mean? There weren't any other kind of crises. It was all empires, and it was whoever had the power bullied people who didn't have power. And everybody behaved badly. The slaves were appallingly treated, but if you realize what the punishments were for British sailors in the Navy, where they would tie them with ropes and then literally throw them overboard and let them slide down the side of the boat, under the boat and up the other side, keeping the ropes as tight as possible so that their flesh was being torn by all the barnacles under the water on the boat. That was a punishment.
Wow, the keel hauling. Yes.
50 lashes so that there was very little flesh left on their shoulders. Well, people were brutal to each other, and it was horrible. But there's no need to base our society on who was slightly more brutal than who.
Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, you called your tour is Why There Is No Hope. I mean, do you feel there is no hope, or as we
I
approach
do feel
you?
there's no hope, but I don't think there's ever been any real hope that we will live in a kind, intelligent, well-organized society. Some things get better. In my lifetime, the one thing that's got better is that women are now having more influence, more power, being listened to properly, and believe it or not, in some countries actually treated as equals. Yeah. Not, I think, in the Islamic countries, but in a lot of it, there is a lot of equality. There's not enough. There will never be enough, but that's improved. But there are so many things that are worse, because I grew up in England that was really quite calm, and people had a sense of humour, and they were a little bit stoical. You know what I mean? They didn't complain much. And they grumbled a bit here and there, and then had a good laugh. They didn't take themselves so serious now. A lot of that sort of fundamentally British attitude to life, English attitude, because it was more characteristic of the English than a lot of the Welsh or Scots or Irish. That's rather gone now, and I think that that's a loss. If you look at the programs that the BBC was making 40 years ago, they're very much more intelligent than the programs that we're making now. I think the BBC's main output now, apart from costume drama, is dancing and baking.
Or maybe a combo.
Or a combo of the two, exactly. Hey, Max, I know you had a couple of questions you wanted to throw out there, not just me.
Yeah, what do you want to ask?
Oh, well, I was just thinking, really, I'd love to hear maybe delve into your memories about what it was like creating some of these things. When you're sat in a room with these creative people and you're coming up with ideas, and suddenly you've got that idea that you know or you think is going to work, or you just want to see out there in the world. What's it like being in that room at that moment? That's what I'm really
It helps to be with a group of people, because trying to be funny and failing is about as embarrassing as anything gets, except for the English batting in the last test. And if you've got a few people around you, I think this is what happens with bands, that at the beginning they cling together for warmth and comfort. And then as they become more successful, then they don't feel quite so, what's going to happen? They begin to feel more confident. That's where the conflicts start coming in the groups. But with us, we knew each other a little bit, and we liked each other, and the main thing was we thought each other was funny. But when we went to see the BBC, and he said, I understand you'd like to do a series, and we said we'd like that. And the head of BBC Comedy said, well, what do you propose doing? We couldn't tell him, because we hadn't discussed it. I mean, that is completely balmy. But when they gave us the series anyway, which is one of the most extraordinary acts in TV history, we sat down to write. We sat down to say, well, what are we going to do? And we didn't get any. And after about 3 sessions, Terry Jones said, well, let's just go home and work and write. So he went home and to South London. Michael, his writing partner, went to North London, and they wrote on their own, and they talked over the phone. Eric always worked on his own. Chapman and I always worked in the same room. And we wrote some stuff, and we just wrote what amused us, because we'd always had these ideas in the past, but if we did them, the director or producer would always say, yeah, very funny boys, but they won't get it in Bradford. It was probably true. It was probably true that it wasn't the sort of humour that would go down in Bradford. But there were enough people who did think it was funny. It turned out we didn't know that. And when we got together after the first week's writing and read stuff out, we started laughing at stuff. We thought, well, maybe it is funny. And when we did the first show, I remember standing in the wings, and I said to Michael Payne, and it just occurred to me, we could be the first comedy show in history to be recorded to complete silence. And Michael said, I was having the same thought. So
Wow.
we had no idea whether it would work, and you never do. The things that are big hits are very frequently out of the blue. The great problem is that everything costs so much now, and the executives are so terrified of being fired that they only want to do retreads of what they've already done because they feel it's safer. And I've written a film now, which is a light comedy about cannibalism, which I think is probably the funniest thing I've ever written. And I'm not sure I'll ever get the money to make it. Because the executives, I'm not kidding you, very, very few of them have any idea what they're doing. But it's not like tennis. If you're no good at tennis, you get beaten 6-0, 6-0, 6-0. But if you're no good at making decisions about television, you can always talk yourself out of it. Say, well, with those stars, it should have worked, or it was raining a lot that day. You know what I mean? Always, there was no definite way of measuring anything, except, of course, audience figures, which means that you always go down market because there are always more people who are not so complicated. And so you do things like dancing and baking because that appeals to them rather than doing TV drama this week, which means people have got to listen and figure out plots.
Oh God, it's a crazy world. I mean, but despite all that, you still love what you do, don't you?
I like making people laugh. Everybody knows that. If you get a laugh, you feel good. The other people feel good. The sense that you're part of a group, there's an acceptance all the way around, not just of the person making the joke, but of all the people laughing with it. It's a lovely, harmonizing experience to laugh with people. And there's also something completely spontaneous about it because it's hard to fake a laugh. I mean, you can fake a laugh socially, but when you really laugh at something, that strikes you as hilarious, and the people around you laugh, there's a tremendous sense of emotional connection with those people. We have a very good playwright called Tom Stoppard, and he said recently the shortest distance between two people is a laugh.
I love that.
And I love that.
Yeah. And laughter is infectious, and I think one of the things because I put up that I was interviewing you today, and someone said it'd be interesting to know, do you think if there was almost like a group therapy you could go to where laughter was the medicine, and you could have arguments and it was fun and it was engaging, and that would help cure some of these negativities, I think, but that laughter being a medicine,
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly. And if you look at it, people think that humour's critical, and that's true. You can't be funny about people who are perfect. You see what I mean? You've got somebody there who's appropriate, kind, generous, intelligent. You can't be funny about them. So it's about foibles. But instead of getting serious about it, say, well, they're a pretty hopeless bunch, human beings. They don't really know what they're doing most of the time, even if they pretend they do. And once you accept that we are a hopeless bunch, there's no harm in pointing out that we're a hopeless bunch, if it is done with affection.
Yeah.
So there's two types of not sneezing, I wish there were. Two types of teasing.
Yes.
One is affectionate and one is nasty. And nasty teasing is very nasty, and people shouldn't do it. But affectionate teasing, pulling each other's legs, is sort of making jokes about each other, but with great affection. It's a bonding mechanism. As anyone knows who's been in the sports dressing room, that's what goes on. Sort of just gentle teasing, people trying to score points off each other. Yeah. And if somebody makes a particularly good joke, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like when Warren Shane, who was a bowler, said to a South African, he said he'd never bowled to him before. He said, I've been waiting for 2 years to bowl to you. And the South African batsman said to him, looks as though you spent them eating.
Yeah.
It would have gone down well with Shane Warne.
And everybody laughed, including
Everybody.
your team. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you guys.
It's been
Likewise.
so wonderful.
It's
Thank
been a
you.
lifetime ambition for me, sir, I can assure you.
Good. Well, come along on the 11th.
I will. We will be there for
We'll
sure.
be there for sure, 100%. And thank you so
And
much.
ask nice, rude questions. I can't stand polite ones because they don't lead anywhere. Ask really nasty questions. And why on earth can't you stay married, you know?
I'll prepare then. You're better, yeah.
Good one. Good one. Oh, looking forward to it. Have a great trip.
Good.
And
Thank you, John.
thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Bangkok Expats.